Hello and welcome. Alan Plum here again with a little more from Shed Engineering. And can I just say to begin with a big thank you to all the supportive and encouraging comments. It's really appreciated to hear what you actually think. And likewise, if you think it's a load of crud, please feel free to say why. But I do try my best to approach things from a different angle and in a way that I haven't seen demonstrated before. So this is just following on from the working waterfall and canal weir. It's just a very simple stream or small river. Now I've seen the product realistic water used hundreds of times, and it seems you can only get a flat mill pond like finish. Well, to me, streams need ripples and waves, so that's what I'm trying to create. Now, I'm not saying realistic water is the wrong thing to use. For lakes, canals, and ponds, etc., it may well be the ideal product. I'm just experimenting with alternatives that are hopefully cheap, simple, and perhaps even foolproof. So the absolute beginner who thinks they could never create something like that, or for the younger and next generation of modelers to have, as I say, an almost foolproof way of creating a good realistic water effect. Now, when I used the freezer bag in the last video, it dawned on me that I should have put the polythene down first, then obviously cover the edges. And it also crossed my mind, instead of trying to scrunch the plastic up into waves and ripples, what would happen if you applied some heat? And it was good to get a comment from Matt Burgess, who was also thinking along the same lines. So as you can see, I've put some PVA down with a splash of paint in it, then put some small gravelly bits down. And here I'm just sticking a section of the freezer bag down with duct tape. Then push the gravel to the outer edges. Now just watch what happens here when I put the heat gun on. So, how about that? Now, to get lovely little waves and ripples, it's all very technical. It takes years and years of experience and practice. Nonsense. Anyone can do it. Even a 10-year-old could do it. And I'm sure they would be delighted and motivated because it gives a pretty good effect. And surely you have to say it's cheap, simple, and more or less foolproof. Okay, that's it. You've seen the best bits now. You now have 12 minutes of me building and modelling the banks, none of which is really rocket science. So you can flick through and look at the pictures at the end if you wish. Obviously, it would be good to get some feedback. As always, I'm not claiming it's new, but out of all the thousands of videos I've watched, I haven't seen a water effect done this way using a freezer bag. It is, in a way, turning things on its head, upside down and back to front, because in real life you always dig the hole first for the pond, dam, canal, etc., and then put the water in it. And that's the logical way of doing it. And so when it comes to modelling, we just follow on from real life and model the landscape first, creating a hole somewhere for the pond or river, etc. Then we try putting the water in it. This is the total opposite. Here you're putting the water in first. Sorry that my hands are continually coming across in front of the camera, but there's no other way of filming it really and doing the demonstration. But as you can see, I'm just using some scrap building foam cut to shape and hot glued in position, and then cutting away the foam to hot glue in some little bits of rock, and you can soon start to build up the sides of the bank without any problem. Obviously you could have something completely different and build the banks up just as a grass banking going through fields and meadows, for instance. This is me mixing some of the foam filler up, 50/50 PVA, and a drop of cheap poster paint so that the filler is coloured all the way through. And then I'm adding the shredded building foam, and that is mixed up into a paste to create the ground cover and grass, etc. Here I'm just slashing the foil cover there to give it a key and giving it a coat of PVA first, just so that we make sure that it's nicely adhered. And you've seen me using this filler before, very workable. And I think it's worth pointing out that this is quite a small and complex shape that needs to be filled or built up. If you tried using ordinary white plaster on such a complex area as this, you're almost certainly going to run the risk of getting it in the wrong spot, and it'd be a terrible pain to actually clean off. And even if you was to fill around the rocks perfectly, you're only creating another problem. You now have to colour and give texture to that white filler. Can you imagine how tedious it would be to paint or get PVA on every bit of filler so that you can apply some sort of scatter, turf or flock? You could end up with numerous bits of white plaster showing through, all of which would need touching up. With this self-coloured filler, if I daub it up the side of a rock, it's hardly noticed. It becomes a weed, grass or ivy. If I squeeze this green filler down a crevice between some rocks, it just becomes lichen, moss or grass. If it was white filler, it would stick out like a sore thumb, and you've got a problem trying to disguise it all the time. So, as you can see, we're finally making progress. Just adding some finishing touches, adding some bits of moss, and well, not shrubbery, but just to give the impression of ferns and foliage growing up between the rocks, etc. Now I had most of what I needed to hand, and this didn't take any longer than an hour, approximately an hour to do this from start to finish. If you're not happy with the colour of the filler, you can soon go over that with PVA and then add scatter and flock to enhance it. But as I say, the filler does give a good basic ground cover to start off with. So there we go. I hope I haven't bored you to tears. Many thanks to all the new subscribers, that's always appreciated. And remember, click the little cogwheel at the side of the subscribe banner if you want updates and notifications. I hope you found it different, helpful, or at least interesting. These first few photographs coming up are not much cop, but I suppose the burning question is it realistic water or not? I'll leave you with a few photographs, and as always, many thanks for watching.